Hi and welcome. In this video I want to highlight a new feature in Photoshop which helps you out in making selections. Now it gives you the ability to be able to make a selection with one click. Now this will look for the main subject or subjects that are in your image, and that could be people, it could be cars, it could be a building, it could be an animal. It will look for these and make a selection round them. Now the selection won't be perfect, but it gives you a very quick way, because you had to do it anyway to get into select and mask. You had to make that initial selection, and basically you used the quick selection tool, and it sometimes took you a while to do. Now one click, bang, and we're straight into select and mask. So let me show you how it works. My name's Ken Fisher and this is LiveLink Training. Okay, so here we've got a photograph of a car. Now I think the main method I would probably use would be to select the quick selection tool and then start making a selection. So we get the brush, that's about right, say yep, and add to selection. I'd keep clicking and dragging to try and make up my selection, and that's okay, that's fine. But now if we look, let me just deselect that. If we look up here now, when we have this selection tool active, like the quick selection or the magic wand tool active, then we've got a new button appears now up in the tool options bar, and it's called Select Subject, and it's next door to Select and Mask. And all I've got to do is just click once and just wait a second, and pow, it makes a selection. Now it looks pretty good round all this lot. I've got an idea of what I want to do with this is to try and make the background black and white. So there is some pieces under here that I need to deal with. Okay, now I know this quick selection tool probably won't do a very good job in here because of the contrast issues. So I think what I'll do is, for this, I'll go and select my polygonal lasso tool, and I'll have it on subtract from selection, and then I'll just try and draw around the bits that I don't want in here. So I'll go along here up to the bumper, and then along the bumper, and let's say try and figure out where this wheel is. Just do a little bit round the wheel, and then come down back to here and back to the start. So I've now cut out all that piece from the selection of the car. There's another little bit here maybe, so again I use my subtract from selection and just go in where I think the wheel is and up to the bottom of the car and just take a piece out, something like that, I think. Oh, we've got a little bit of an itchy bit there. Okay, and we've got a little bit here that I'll just take the corner off that there, and I think we're good to go with that. Now the downside of the quick selection tool is that the selection edges are not all that accurate. So that's why we've got Select and Mask. So now I'm going to click on Select and Mask, and we're going to refine those edges. Now you can see here, I've got a little bit here that I don't want really. If we just zoom into that, okay. Now we've got some tools here. So we've got our quick selection tool in the toolbox, and we've got the refine edge brush, and we've got the brush tool, which allows us to paint back in or paint out parts of the selection that we've got wrong. We've got some lasso tools. We've got a lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool, and we've got a hand tool for moving around when we zoomed in, and we've got a zoom tool for zooming in. Okay, well I think my best tool for this is the brush tool, and it's already in add to selection. So I'm going to go down and say make my brush a little bit smaller, again with the square brackets, and then I'm going to hold the Alt key down, and that's going to put me into subtract from selection mode, and I'm just going to give it a few clicks just to try and get rid of that bit there that I don't want. And I'll just try and round off that little bit there. Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. Okay, we'll call that good. Now you've different methods of being able to visualize your extraction, and these are in the view mode. And if I just click on this, we've got onion skin, marching ants, right down to on layers. Now onion skinning is a fairly new one. Now here we've got a transparency slider. Now what this does, it allows us to bring back part of the background. So if I just pull the transparency slider across, you'll see that the background will start coming back through, and it will show you if you've missed any pieces, if there's any pieces that you should have got that you didn't. And looking at that, I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna call that okay. But if you take it right down to 0, then obviously you're going to have your original image in view, and then basically you're just making anything that's not selected some kind of transparency, and so you can have a look at it. Okay, I'll put that back up to 100%. Now on edge detection, I'm not really bothered about much of this. I think we'll have a little bit of a radius, and we'll have a little bit of smoothing, tiny bit of feather, a little bit of contrast, and I don't think we need to use shift edge because that's going to contract or expand the selection, and I don't think I need that. And it's looking a little bit softer there, so I think I'll put a little bit more contrast in just to harden the edge up a little bit. Okay, now lastly but not leastly, we've got the output, and we've got several options here. We can output to a selection, to a layer mask, to a new layer with a layer mask. In this case, I'm going to output to a selection, and then I'll just click OK, and let selector mask work its magic. So now we've got this selection in place, and all we've done is use select subject to actually select the subject in its glory, but it's not been perfect, so we've refined it a little bit, and then took it into selector mask and refined it a little bit more, and then output it as a selection, and that's pretty cool. Now the next step is to make some kind of adjustment, so let's do that. We'll go down to the bottom of the layers panel, and we'll click on the little black and white icon, which is the yin and yang icon, and we'll select the black and white adjustment layer. And when you put that on, it automatically takes this selection you've made and places it on a mask. But it's obviously the wrong way around, because we've got a black and white car and a coloured background. So how can we get out of that? Well, what we need to do is invert that mask. So if I make sure I'm on the mask layer, so you've got this like a double line around the mask. If it's not, if it's like that, then click on the mask to make it active. And then you'll get in the properties panel, you'll see you've got the properties for that mask. And down at the bottom here, we've got an invert button. So if I click on the invert button, everything will be restored. So I'll just get rid of my properties panel, and you can see now that I've got a lovely coloured car and I've got a black and white background. And if I want to, I can play around with like the specific colours. See if we've got some reds in here. Yeah, we can lighten it, we can darken it. Are there any yellows? There's a few in there, and a bit of green. Is there any blues? Yeah, a little bit. Oh yeah, a little bit of blue there, but I don't want them really, so I'll use it to darken it down a little bit. So, okay. Now there are other occasions that this might be useful. If we look at this, say we've got a young girl set against a white background, and we might want to put the background in as a bit of a texture. Okay, so let's go for broke. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the quick selection tool again, and instead of going in and making a selection, I'm just going to click select subject and let Photoshop work its magic, and bang, there we have a pretty good selection. With a couple of bits here that we need to deal with, and we've got some bits missing between the fingers, but it's not bad as a starting point. Okay, so I'll stick with my quick selection tool, but I'll just zoom in a little bit, and I'll just try now to get into these little areas. So again, on this one I need to be in subtract from selection mode. So I'm going to just click in these areas to try and pick them up, and we'll click in here, click in there. Got a little bit of work to do here, so I'm just going to add to selection and see if I can put that back. Okay, and we've a little bit over here to deal with, and now again I want to be in subtract from selection mode, so I'm going to hold the Alt key down, get that little negative, and then I'm just subtracting that. That's gone. Okay, so I've got my initial selection that looks pretty good. Oh no, I've still got a bit missed over here, so we'll just see if we can add that back in again. A couple of clicks. Yeah, that'll be fine. But I've got some wispy bits of hair here that I'd like to try and get back. So what I'm going to do now is go into select a mask. Now I've got my initial selection. Go into select a mask. But this time when I get in here, there we go, I'm going to use my refine edge brush, and this I call it the wispy hairbrush, but it's they call it the refine edge brush, or you can press the R key. Make it a little bit bigger, and all I'm going to do is just try and bring back some of the areas that have gone. You can see here I've got some white pixels that surrounding the hair, so what I'm going to do is just give it a quick, because I'm not actually painting with this, I'm just asking it to basically to recalculate in a bigger area. So if I click and drag on that, you've got to do it as little as you can. You don't want to be going over and going over. So anywhere where you've got a little bit of hair, I'll give it a bit of a click. Over here there's obviously some issues with the hair inside, so I'm just going to click and drag over that and see if I can get rid of that. That's looking good, and drag over that piece, and then drag over that piece. And that should give me some visibility through those strands of hair, and I think there is a piece of hair somewhere there, so I'm just going to click and drag along it and see if I can find it. I'll click and drag along this edge a bit just to try and bring them edges back. Okay, I think we're good to go, so we'll just zoom out a bit. Okay, we'll try the decontaminate colours, but I don't think it's going to give us much on this one, but it just may give us a bit. Now, yeah, there's a little bit in here that it's actually darkening the edge pixels, so we'll leave that switched on, and then we'll output this as a new layer with a layer mask, and then we'll click OK. And there we go, we've now got our layer mask masking out all that background. So what we'll do now is we'll get our new background. So I'll go to this image and we'll say we'll get this quite colourful image. I'll get my move tool, or you can press the V key on the keyboard, and then I'll click and I'll drag it up and then drag it back and then let go. And it's a bit smaller than my original image, so I'll just put it up into that corner, and then I'll use transform, which is Control or Command and T, and I'll drag this down until it fills. So there we go, and then I'll click the tick to accept the transform. Now that layer is obviously covering everything up, so it's not in the right place in the stack. So what we need to do is to drag it down in the layers panel underneath, and you know you're going it underneath when you see that little double blue line, that's telling you where it's going to go. So I'm going to drop my layer in there, and there we have it. Oh, we've missed a bit in that corner. Oh, right, okay, well what I'll have to do now, we've got this bit here that we need to mask out. So first I'll have to just select it, so I'll use my quick selection tool again for that in add to selection, and just give it a quick select. Okay, now that's selected, all I do is I go on to the mask, and what I need to do is to fill that area with black now, because black lets me see through to the background. So quick keyboard shortcut for fill from foreground colour is Alt and backspace, and my foreground colour's black, so when I fill that in it lets me see through to the background, and then Control and D to deselect. Okay, now the final thing probably is that there is a little bit of a depth of field going on here, so we might want to blur the background. Okay, so how can we do that? Well, first I'll turn it into a smart object because I want to be able to re-edit this if I need to. So I'm going to right click and select Convert to Smart Object. And that converts it to a smart object now, so when I run any filters on it, which I'm going to run the blur filter, it won't actually blur the image, it'll be attached to the outside, so I can go back and re-edit it. I'll show you what I mean. So now when I go to my filter menu and say I'm going to go to blur and then Gaussian blur, and then I can just choose from here, so I can really blur the background if I want by putting the amount up, but that's going to be a bit too much, so I've got to find a place that I feel happy with. So let's say about 2 or 3 pixels. What does that look like? I think that looks not bad, so we'll give that a go and we'll click OK. It puts the blur on the outside of this image because it can't get into the image, it has to have it on the outside because it's a smart object. And if we want to go back and re-edit, we can do. We can go back and say, well, we'll make that a little bit blurrier. We'll just turn that on and off. You see it's getting a little bit blurrier. We'll probably take it a little bit further. Oh yeah, that's going a bit too far. So I just want it to be a little bit slightly out of focus, that's all. Okay, and then we'll click OK. Okay, let's have a look at another couple of brief examples. Here we've got a little skyscraper, not a little skyscraper, a big skyscraper, and as long as we've got the selection tool, the quick selection or the magic wand tool selected, we will have select subject, and I'm just going to click on that and see what Photoshop does, and bang, it selected my building. Will it select more than one person? And this is quite a busy background here, so let's have a see how it works with that. Let's go select subject, and bang, that is a pretty good selection out of quite a busy background. That's it for today's subject of select subject, which is a quick way of making a selection to get you into select a mask to refine it. I think it's really useful. I do hope you enjoyed that and you found it useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave me a message in the more area under the video. That would be brilliant. If you're passing by, look me up on Facebook and like my page. It would be very much appreciated. And please click that subscribe button and become part of my Photoshop learning community. I'll see you in the very next video. Bye for now.